Virgo, do you hear that? No, really. Stop and listen. Listen to the space around you right now, the hum of your refrigerator, the distant traffic, the sound of your own breathing. But underneath all of that, there is something else. A silence so dense it has weight. A silence that has been sitting between you and another person for days, weeks, maybe months now, growing heavier with every hour that passes, calcifying into a wall that neither of you built on purpose, but both of you have been hiding behind. And I need you to understand something about that silence tonight. It is not empty. It is not neutral. It is not the peaceful quiet of two people healing separately and moving on with dignity. That silence is a pressure cooker. That silence is a throat closing around a scream that has been swallowed so many times it has started to choke the person who tried to keep it down. That silence is the exact distance between you and someone who is right now, in this very moment, reaching their breaking point. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Their breaking point is not a metaphor. It is not a poetic way of saying they miss you. It is a physical, cellular, neurological collapse happening inside a human body that has been starved of your presence for so long that it is starting to malfunction. And Virgo, I am not here to tell you to run back to them. I am not here to tell you that this collapse is romantic or that you are responsible for catching them. I am here to tell you the truth of what is happening on the other side of your no contact boundary, because you need to know what your silence has done. You need to know that the person you walked away from, the person you stopped speaking to, the person you cut off or who cut you off, or who simply drifted into a quiet so absolute it became a grave, that person is coming apart at the seams. And what happens next is going to force you to make a choice you are not prepared for. I want you to picture them. I know you have been trying not to. I know you have been using every tool in your formidable Virgo arsenal to stay productive, to stay organized, to stay sane. You have been making lists and checking boxes and cleaning things that do not need cleaning and working until your body begs for mercy because stillness feels too dangerous. Stillness feels like it might let the grief in. Stillness feels like it might let their face appear behind your eyelids. So you have been moving, you have been efficient, you have been the version of yourself that functions beautifully under pressure because you were raised to believe that falling apart is a luxury you cannot afford. But while you have been building walls out of discipline and distraction, they have been drowning in the space you left behind. And I can see it. I can see them right now as clearly as if I were standing in their room. And Virgo, it is bad. It is worse than you imagined. It is worse than your most vindictive fantasy. It is worse than your most compassionate nightmare. Because this is not a person who is simply sad. This is not a person who is having a hard time and will eventually bounce back. This is a person whose entire system is rejecting the reality of your absence the way a body rejects a transplanted organ. Their breaking point is not emotional. It is physiological. It is happening in their blood, in their bones, in their synapses, in the meat and electricity of their mortal form. And it is happening because you were not just their lover or their friend or their person. You were their gravity. You were the invisible force that held their orbit together. And without you, they are drifting into pieces. Let me tell you what their breaking point looks like. because I think you need the specifics. I think your mind has been filling the silence with assumptions, and some of those assumptions are too gentle. You have been imagining them going out with friends. You have been imagining them laughing at a bar or scrolling on their phone or sleeping peacefully or maybe even moving on with someone new. You have been imagining that your absence registered as a relief or at worst a manageable loss. And Virgo, I am here to shatter that illusion. I am here to tell you that none of those gentle imaginings are true. What is true is that they have not slept through the night in weeks. Not the kind of insomnia where you toss and turn and eventually drift off. I am talking about the kind where their body forgets how to surrender to unconsciousness, where their nervous system is so flooded with cortisol and adrenaline that lying down feels like strapping themselves to a board and waiting for execution, where every time they close their eyes, your face appears with such photographic clarity that their heart rate spikes into a panic zone and they have to sit up, gasping, convinced for a split second that you are in the room, only to realize that the room is empty and you are never coming back. They have tried everything. Over-the-counter sleep aids that leave them groggy but still awake, alcohol that numbs the edges for an hour before snapping back twice as sharp, prescription medications that turn their dreams into surreal horror films where they are always searching for you and never finding you. Nothing works. Because the part of their brain that regulates rest has been rewired around your absence. You were their lullaby. You were the sound that told their body it was safe enough to let go. And without that signal, their cells do not know what to do. They are firing and misfiring. They are burning glucose in a furnace that has no purpose. They are aging faster than they should. And they can feel it. They can feel themselves unraveling. And the sleep deprivation is just the foundation. On top of that, they have stopped eating properly. Not in a dramatic, attention-seeking way, in a quiet, terrifying way. Food has lost its taste, not metaphorically, literally. They will put something in their mouth and chew and swallow because they know they need fuel, but their taste buds are flat. Everything is ash. Everything is cardboard. Their body is sending hunger signals that reach a brain too preoccupied with you to interpret them correctly. So they eat once a day, maybe, a handful of something. A coffee that sits in their stomach like acid, and the weight is falling off them. Their clothes hang differently. Their face has taken on a hollow quality that makes them look older, frailer, like a version of themselves that has been bled out. Their hands shake sometimes, not from caffeine, from a nervous system that is running on fumes. They have had moments at work, if they are still managing to work, where they have to hide in a bathroom stall and press their forehead against the cool metal of the door just to remind themselves that solid objects still exist, that the world is still physical, that they have not dissolved into the vapor of their own longing. They have cried in public, not pretty crying, not movie crying, the kind of crying that doubles you over, that makes your ribs hurt, that produces sounds you did not know your throat could make, the kind that leaves you so drained afterward that you cannot remember how to stand up straight. They have reached out to touch their phone 1,000 times, thumb hovering over your name, and pulled back 1,001. Because they know you are not going to answer. They know that the no contact is not a test, it is a wall. And they are slamming their body against it like a bird against glass, breaking themselves a little more with each impact, unable to understand why the air that looks so clear is so impossibly hard. But here is the part that is going to make your breath catch. Here is the part that moved me when I tuned into their energy. They are not breaking because they are weak. They are not falling apart because they lack resilience or because they are overly dramatic or because they cannot handle adulthood. They are breaking because they finally understand the separation, the silence, the space you gave them. It worked. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. It stripped away every distraction. It removed every buffer. It canceled every noise. And in that brutal, echoing quiet, they have been forced to hear the truth that they took you for granted, the truth that they let their fear or their pride or their stupidity or their trauma or their inability to communicate destroy the single most stable, nourishing, irreplaceable connection they have ever had. They have been sitting in the wreckage of their own choices, and the weight of that realization is crushing them. It is not the absence of you that is killing them. It is the comprehension of why you are absent. It is the moment of clarity when they replay the last conversation, the last fight, the last time they chose their ego over your heart, and they realize with perfect surgical precision exactly what they threw away. And that knowledge is a poison they cannot vomit up. It is a truth that has entered their bloodstream and is circulating through every chamber of their heart. They are breaking because they know. They know it was them. They know it was their fault. They know that if they had just listened, just shown up, just chosen you instead of their own broken reflexes, you would still be here. And the agony of that knowing is so vast that their body cannot contain it. It is leaking out of them in tears, in insomnia, in the inability to eat, in the way they stare at walls for hours without blinking. They are being digested alive by their own regret. And Virgo, I need you to hear me when I say this. This breaking point is not the end, it is the threshold. Because a human being can only bend so far before they either snap completely or they make a radical, desperate, irreversible choice. And this person who is currently hemorrhaging internally from the loss of you, has reached the moment where inaction is no longer possible. The silence has become a torture chamber. The separation has become a death sentence. And they are about to do something huge, something that will violate the terms of the no contact, not out of disrespect, but out of survival. They are going to reach out, and when they do, it is not going to be a casual check-in. It is not going to be a breadcrumb. It is not going to be a drunken text at 2 a.m. that they can pretend not to remember. It is going to be a breaking, a complete, total, unguarded shattering of every defense they have ever built. They are going to contact you, and it is going to be the most honest communication you have ever received from them. Maybe it is a letter, a real letter, handwritten, because they needed their body to be involved in the apology, because typing felt too easy, too removable, too much like the casual communications that got you here in the first place. Maybe it is them showing up at your door with nothing, no gift, no excuse, no script, just their raw face and their shaking hands and their eyes that look like they have seen war. Maybe it is a phone call where they do not hang up when you answer, where they say your name and their voice cracks on the second syllable, where they tell you everything. the insomnia, the weight loss, the way they cannot function, the way they now understand exactly what you were trying to tell them all those times when they were too defensive to hear it, the way they know they do not deserve a response, but they are begging for one anyway because they are dying without you. Maybe it is an email so long it takes you an hour to read, every paragraph a confession, every sentence an autopsy of their own failure, ending not with a demand but with a surrender. I am broken. You were right. I see it now. I see all of it. And I will do anything, become anything, learn anything, if you will just let me prove to you that I understand what I lost. And Virgo, when this happens, when this person who has been holding themselves together with fraying thread finally reaches their breaking point and the thread snaps and they come pouring out toward you in a flood of truth and desperation and regret, you are going to feel something you do not expect. You are not going to feel victorious. You are not going to feel the sweet satisfaction of being right, even though you were right. You are going to feel the floor drop out from under you because you have been so busy surviving the separation, so busy building your routines and fortifying your boundaries and convincing yourself that you were strong enough to walk away, that you have not fully processed how much of your own heart is still lodged in their chest. You are going to hear their breaking, and your own carefully constructed walls are going to tremble. You are going to want to run to them. You are going to want to fix them. You are going to want to say, it is okay. I am here. Stop breaking. I will hold you together because that is who you are. You are the assembler. You are the one who sees the pieces and knows where they fit. You are the one who cannot stand to watch someone suffer if you believe you have the power to stop it, and they know this. On some level, even in their broken state, they know that your compassion is the deepest entry point back into your life. They know that if they can make you feel their pain vividly enough, you will want to heal it. And that is the trap. That is the final test of this separation. Not whether they can survive without you, but whether you can survive their collapse without losing yourself in the rubble. So here is what you need to do. Here is how you handle the breaking point of someone you once loved without letting it break you. First, you let them break alone, not because you are cruel, not because you are heartless, but because you did not cause this. Their breaking is the result of their own actions catching up with them. It is the bill coming due. It is the body finally rejecting the poison they have been feeding it for years. You are not the doctor here. You are not the medicine. You are the reason they finally understand they were sick. And understanding is not the same as healing. They have to heal themselves. They have to put themselves back together without using your hands as glue. If you let them pour their brokenness into your lap, if you let them cry against your shoulder and promise you the moon and swear they have changed, you will find yourself exactly where you were before. The caretaker, the fixer, the emotional anchor for someone who only knows how to float when they are tied to your weight, and you will drown again. You will drown so slowly you will not even notice the water rising until it is over your head. So you let them break. You watch from a distance. You acknowledge their pain without absorbing it. You say, I hear you. I see that you are hurting, but I cannot be the person who fixes this for you. And you hang up. You close the door. You walk away. And it will feel like you are killing them. It will feel like you are the villain in their story, but you are not. You are the only person in this equation who is finally telling the truth. The truth that love is not a suicide mission. The truth that your silence was not a punishment. It was a boundary, and boundaries do not dissolve just because someone has finally realized they needed them. Second, you do not accept the breaking as proof of transformation. A person at their breaking point is not a transformed person. They are a desperate person. And desperation can mimic growth with terrifying accuracy. They will say all the right things. They will acknowledge all the wounds they inflicted. They will explain their psychology with a clarity that sounds like years of therapy compressed into a single conversation. They will promise you consistency, presence, communication, all the things they never gave you before. And they will mean every word. In that moment, with their heart in their hands and their voice shaking, they will mean it completely. But meaning it and being capable of it are separated by an ocean of work that they have not done yet. Breaking is not healing. Collapsing is not rebuilding. And you cannot build a new relationship on the foundation of someone's nervous breakdown. You cannot say yes to a person just because their absence of you is destroying them. You say yes to a person when their presence in your life adds to it, not when their absence from it subtracts from theirs. So you wait. You tell them, if this is real, prove it to me in 6 months. Prove it to me in a year. Prove it to me with a life that functions without me as its oxygen tank. Prove it to me by becoming someone who does not need to reach a breaking point to appreciate what they had. And if they are serious, if their breaking point was truly the moment that shattered their illusions and not just a dramatic bid for your attention, they will do that work. They will go to therapy. They will address the wounds that made them incapable of loving you properly the first time. They will build a life that stands on its own legs. And maybe, if they do that work and you are still open to it, there can be a conversation. But not now. Not while they are bleeding out on your doorstep. Not while their breaking point is still wet. Third, you protect your own breaking point. Because Virgo, you have one too. You have been so busy being strong, so busy holding your breath, so busy proving that you can survive this separation with your dignity intact, that you have not let yourself feel the full weight of what you lost. And seeing them break is going to trigger your own collapse if you are not careful. You are going to want to finally let go of the tight grip you have kept on your own grief. You are going to want to cry the tears you have been storing in your rib cage. You are going to want to scream that it was not fair, that you did everything right, that you loved them with a purity they did not know how to receive. And you should, but not with them, not in their presence. Not where your vulnerability can be mistaken for an open door. You find your own space. You find your own witnesses. A friend who knows how to hold silence. A therapist who knows how to hold pain. A room where you can finally let the floor crack beneath you because you know someone else is holding the ceiling. Your breaking point matters just as much as theirs. Your grief is just as valid. Your loss is just as real, and you deserve to fall apart in safety, not in the crossfire of someone else's desperation. I want you to understand the physics of what is happening right now. When two people separate, there is a period where both bodies are still adjusting to the new orbit. It is like a planet losing its moon. The tides change, the axis shifts, the magnetic field weakens. For you, Virgo, that adjustment has been internal. You have been recalibrating in private, methodically, carefully the way you do everything. You have been rewriting your internal map to account for a world where they do not exist. And you have made progress, painful, incremental, heroic progress. But for them, the adjustment has been external. They have been fighting it. They have been refusing to accept the new orbit. They have been sending signals into space, hoping for a bounce back, hoping that if they just waited long enough, the old gravity would reassert itself. And now, with their breaking point, they are realizing that the old gravity is gone. You have moved. You have shifted. You are no longer the moon they took for granted. You have become your own planet with your own gravity, your own atmosphere, your own life. And they are no longer strong enough to pull you back. They are not even strong enough to stand in your new atmosphere without collapsing. That is the truth of their breaking point. It is not a romantic climax. It is a physical acknowledgement that you have outgrown them, that your silence was not emptiness, it was evolution, and they are breaking because they are trying to hold on to a version of you that no longer exists. So when the call comes, when the letter lands in your mailbox, when the knock echoes through your apartment at an hour that violates every boundary you have set, you remember this. You remember that their breaking is not your emergency. You remember that you did not create this wound. You remember that the person who is reaching out to you in desperation is not the person you needed them to be when you were still asking. You needed them to be present. You needed them to be honest. You needed them to be consistent. You needed them to choose you when it was easy, not just when it was hard. And they failed. They failed repeatedly. They failed until you had no choice but to protect yourself by removing yourself from the equation. Their breaking point does not erase those failures. It does not redeem them. It simply makes them visible. And visibility is not the same as victory. You are going to be tempted to ask questions, to get closure, to finally hear the explanation you have been waiting for. Resist that temptation. Closure is not a conversation. Closure is a decision. And you have already made it. You closed the door when you stopped contacting them. You closed the door when you decided that your peace was more important than their potential. You closed the door when you chose yourself over the hope that they would eventually become who you needed them to be. Anything they say now at their breaking point is just noise against a door that is already shut. You do not need to open it to hear them out. You do not need to crack it to be polite. You do not need to prove that you are not cruel by accepting their collapse as a gift. Your silence has already said everything. Your absence has already been the most articulate speech you have ever given. Let it stand. And here is what I see on the other side of this breaking point for both of you. For them, this is the beginning of a long, ugly, necessary reconstruction. They will survive the breaking. They will not die from it, even though it feels like dying. They will eventually sleep again. They will eventually eat again. They will eventually piece together a life that does not have you at its center. And in doing so, they might actually become the person they pretended to be when they were with you. Not for you, for themselves, because that is the only way growth ever sticks. For you, Virgo, this is the confirmation you did not know you needed, the confirmation that your love was real, that your absence registered, that The space you occupied in their life was as significant as you always feared it was insignificant. You are not going to take them back. You are not going to let their breaking point become your reunion. But you are going to sleep better knowing that you were not crazy, that your instincts were correct, that the connection you felt was not one-sided. It was just unequal. They loved you in their way, but their way was too small for your way. And now that they know it, now that the breaking has made the truth undeniable, you can finally release the last thread of doubt that has been tying you to the wreckage. Someone has reached their breaking point with this separation, and that someone is not you. You reached yours long ago, in the quiet moments when you realized you were alone in the relationship, and you did what you always do. You endured, you analyzed, you tried to fix it, and when it became clear that it was unfixable, you did the bravest thing a Virgo can do. You walked away from something that was not working, even though every fiber of your loyal, devoted, tenacious being screamed at you to stay and try one more time. You already broke. You already rebuilt. And now they are catching up to where you were months ago. Let them catch up alone. Let them break in the space you vacated. Let them learn what you already know. That love is not a hostage situation. That silence is not a weapon unless someone has given you no other choice. That the only way to survive a breaking point is to let it break you open into someone new, not to use it as leverage to claw your way back to the past. Your future is quiet, Virgo, but it is a different quiet than the silence of separation. It is the quiet of a life that belongs entirely to you. A life where no one is breaking on your doorstep. A life where your peace is not interrupted by the sound of someone else's regret. A life where the only person you are responsible for rebuilding is yourself. And that life is already beginning. You are already in it. You just need to keep walking forward without looking back at the explosion, because the explosion is not your destination. It is their beginning. And your beginning happened the day you chose yourself. If this reading found you in the exact moment you needed to hear it, if you have been waiting for the sign that your silence was not in vain, if you know in your bones who is breaking right now, and you know that you cannot go back, I want you to seal this boundary with your words. Drop a comment below and write, "I am not their rescue." Let the universe hear you claim your freedom. Let your own heart hear you say it out loud. And if you need more messages that speak directly to the truth of what you are surviving, subscribe for more readings that honor your strength without asking you to shrink it. You are not breaking. You are already whole, and no one else's collapse is going to change that. Keep walking, Virgo. The quiet ahead of you is not empty. It is full of everything you have been waiting to become.